Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Ian Blackburn. This is another session of Zoom into Wine. We host these every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock and put a lot of time and energy into arranging a beautiful presentation. We got our little jars out with some great wines in them. I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and get glass number one ready to rock and roll. Had a very busy day. Right now we're working on building a bunch of fun future events and travel, and we've got some really amazing Zooms coming together, but it all creates a lot of work, and it's good work though. I love it. So thank you guys for keeping me busy. I'm going to drink 4 different wines from Mount Etna tonight. That's the topic of this evening's discussion. I was very fortunate to very recently, and had just a really wonderful time. It was one of the more peaceful places. I felt very safe. I felt very comfortable, very relaxed. The weather, the air, the food, there is an island-like sensibility to it. It was really really relaxing, and I really felt the vacation vibe. So I'm going to highly recommend that you consider that for your future travel. Going to show you just a couple of pictures and kind of set the mood. I want to make sure everybody's got a little wine in the glass. We're coming to full strength here. We did sell out this tasting tonight. We have over 22 on the Zoom. Thank you guys very much. Let me see. Need to get rid of the picture. How do I do that? There we go. There it is. Thank you. And our group continues to grow. So welcome. Again, my name is Ian Blackburn, and this is Zoom into Wine. Each Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we talk about different wine topicality, and we have a really fun calendar at zoomintowine.com. Take a look at all of the different stuff that we're trying to bring to you. You can opt to join us, just watch. You can get the tasting kit, you get bottle kits. Next week, I'm just going to plan it right now. Can't believe it's here already, but we have a great Zinfandel gathering with some of the best people in Zinfandel live on the Zoom with us. We're hoping to have over 50 people join us, and we're almost there. I do think that Zoom will sell out with the caliber of the people that we have on the Zoom and the Zins that we're tasting. Oh my God, it's kind of a spectacular arrangement. So if you think you like Zinfandel, even that's all it takes. Maybe you don't think you like Zinfandel. I think that's even a good idea to change your mind, because these are great wines. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Tonight, it's all about Sicily. So let me get into the spreadsheet and or the slideshow and show you guys our work here as we put together a little story about each brand. Hopefully you've got the first wine in the glass and you can kind of relax as I talk for a minute about this first wine and kind of set the mood and the tone. It'll take a few. Try not to finish all of it before you get to the facts about the wine. There are a lot of pictures here. First of all, when I went to Sicily, I got to stay in this great little place right on, well, everything's right off the water, basically, unless you head right into the heart of Sicily. But we stayed at this fantastic Medici property, Terraneri, Medici Terraneri. It was fantastic. It was, it's a Relayan chateau. They grow everything on the property: olives, fruit, grapes. They have a good culinary program. The property is quite immense, and we were able to walk around and kind of had to almost hike from your house down to where breakfast was served, and everything was right out of the garden. Best omelet I ever had in my life. Fava beans and eggs. Who would have thought that that would have been good? But it was so delicious with the olive oil, and they cooked it in and everything. It was just right on time. That rainbow was part of my amenity package. They arranged that for me as I checked in. It was really a pretty place. Then we headed up to the volcano, and very nearby Mount Etna. And the volcano is really kind of the source of life, source of energy. It is a living, breathing thing, and that right there is a lava tube. You'll learn a lot about volcanoes visiting, because you hear about how lava spills out and then the tube closes and the lava doesn't come there anymore because the pathway is closed. But it's immense. You see this decomposing lava everywhere, and these white trees jutting out of the lava. It's a really amazing kind of clash as you see, these are little teeny plants trying to grow and break down the soils. And the only things that really grow in this type of soil are really mean little critters and things with thorns, and it's pretty rough out there. But we really enjoyed the oxygen, the fresh air, the signs of great growth in life. And we headed straight to our first winery with Silvio Foti, and we were eating some amazing food. We got to hang out at a place that had the official map of Mount Etna that shows you the vastness of the appellation. Of course, we're surrounded by water, so there's seafood everywhere. We went into Taormina and was able to look at the ancient theater. I was playing Pavarotti earlier because Pavarotti actually sang right here on this stage. And as you look through the crack of the theater, you can see that's Etna in the background there. That's really what the Greeks and the Romans wanted you to capture, is that essence of the power of the mountain. And it is just super surreal. And of course, everybody knows that's the White Lotus Hotel right there, which now has sold out Sicily for probably the years to come. It's quite Gary, I'm sorry, white wine number one you were asking is the Benanti number one. So if you've got the bottle kit, you've got the Benanti white there in your bottle kit, and then wine number two will be the Gaia, called Ida, IDDA. So that's the power of this site. It's just really cool. I love this picture over here to the left where Mark is looking out, taking a gaze there at that site. And it's a really cool story. You either had the Greeks or the Romans or somebody else conquering this island at any one point in time. I think it had like 18 different countries rule it at one point in time, or kingdoms. And it's fascinating, and you can see all their influences. But the volcano is the major influence of life and energy in this part of the island. And that's what we're tasting tonight, are wines of the volcano. And here's a little video shot to kind of get you even closer to it, so you can feel it. That little smoke coming off the top of the volcano, there was actually a little earthquake a couple of days while we were there, and nobody even noticed it, but a little smoke started to peer out of the top, and they call the volcano is breathing when it's got a little smoke coming out. We left, and 2 weeks later it erupted, and apparently shuts down the airports and everything. So thank God that didn't happen to us. But we were able to really see and feel the energy there. going to get us back into that slideshow, but to leave the video, you kind of have to leave the slideshow, then go back in. Just give me 1 second. All right. So tonight we're talking about the wines of Mount Etna. It is a DOC, and I'm sure, absolutely positive, that someday it'll be a DOCG, or they'll have vineyards that will qualify for DOCG status. It's like the volcano, it's still evolving. They didn't really make a lot of quality wines here until recently. In the 1980s, this area was a massive wine volume producing area. And then around 1980, things started to change, some rules started to change, and became quality oriented, the systems. So a lot of people just abandoned their vineyards, abandoned their houses. This has been happening in Sicily for a long time. I was actually it was kind of bizarre to visit some of the little towns and to see how many homes have literally been abandoned. It's still a thing. And I'm sure you've heard that you can buy a house for $1 in Sicily as long as you agree to fix it up, which would cost you a lot. And you'd have to be very patient, but it is very possible to do. Anyway, the soils in Mount Etna are some of the youngest soils in the wine world. They're very fertile. They're extremely fertile. So you spend a lot of your energy when you're growing grapes on Mount Etna, trying to harness that fertility. In a lot of the grape growing regions of the world, they work with soils that are not very fertile. And so the energy is lower, and they're able to really make the vine suffer, looking, searching, working for energy, for power, for food, for nutrition, and focus that energy on really small berries. When you have very fertile soils, the vines want to just grow and grow and climb, and they don't necessarily work on quality. So you have to make them work on quality, which takes a lot of energy. This is where we are in Mount Etna, near the volcano, and you could see that position. Here's a nice look at the top. We're at about 10,500 feet in elevation, about 3,500 meters. And with a little bit of that white wine in the glass, I'd like you just to listen to one of the growers who we're going to be tasting tonight. Il Custodi will be the final wine that we taste today. Il Custodi will be number 4, but I think you get a sense of the type of spirit that it takes to make wine on the volcano.
Something very, very strong. There is some energy that the volcano gives to you, that it's something that it's not really technically or diciamo scientifically easy to explain. There is not really a fear on the volcano. There is just a very strong attachment. So personally, of course, living on the volcano gives you sometimes some limitation, but I believe that the advantages are much more stronger than the disadvantage. Only real disadvantage we have, like last year, we had around 70 parossismi, so about the year since February to December, 70 times Etna has erupted, and about half of these times has erupted strongly, putting out ashes. The only contraindication you have of this is that, unfortunately, if the wind is blowing on your side, you will have to clean your terrace. Etna, within the last 2 millenniums, it passed like very high periods as well very low periods. So it was a very popular area for wine at the Greeks and the Romans, and it was probably the biggest area of production of wine between the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Here we're producing on the Etna around 40 million liters of wine, while now we are producing 3 to 4. So it was huge. It was 10 times now. And as well, there were very, very sad moments. One of the saddest, probably the lowest moment that Etna touched, it was really in the 80s, in the same period when Salvo Foti and Benanti restarted the Etna. And this was the period when the European community didn't allow anymore to use the palmento. Here, every single vineyard had his own palmento, and his own palmento were sized for the vineyard. The palmento, it was the facility, it was the cellar, and it was used to do, of course, in concrete open air, and it was pressed with a traditional press, with a very big wood and a weight called chianca, and everyone was doing the wine for their own consumption. But in the 80s, due also to some other scandals, this was not allowed anymore. And this actually, since there weren't here any facilities to make wine, just made the vineyards get abandoned. So in the 80s, in the early 90s, you can purchase a vineyard just paying the notary act, because managing a vineyard was much more expensive than anything you can get from. So people were just leaving their vineyards because they should have any way to take care for fires, and this was really very sad, because it was unreasonable technically, because on Etna we have been doing vinification and wine in palmento, and in over 2,000 years, nobody died from the wine from the palmento, and so it was meaningless. Anyway, what it is good is that there is a movement that wants to take back this tradition. Already Salvo does one in palmento. As a custodi, I will renovate my palmento at the cellar, and I will do my palmento wine in the cellar from next vintage. And this is, I think, it's important. It's absolutely necessary, because.
Let me show you what he's talking about. Each of the wineries that we visited had these old palmentos that are literally ancient winemaking facilities that they're using this kind of a massive tree with a lot of weight to press the grapes, and this kind of a period of time of industrial winemaking and technology kind of leading the day. They outlawed the use of these facilities to improve wine quality, or at least that's what they thought. And now they're kind of secretly coming back, especially in Mount Etna, with these small productions and these small producers, really believing that this very hands-on approach is the secret to making the wine long term. Now, some people will do a wine in this type of facility, one wine, and then do all the rest in other types of facilities, and some will integrate both. But there's a lot of history here, a lot of history. Romans and Greeks planted grapes here thousands of years ago. It's just, this is not a new part of wine. I'm going to put this video, which goes on for a while, into the chat. If you'd like to watch it after we're done tonight, you'll be able to taste our final wine with the winemaker here. That's Mario Paluzzi of Il Custodi. He will be our final wine that we're tasting tonight. But I just wanted to kind of set the tone and the timbre of what we're tasting, and you got to have the passion for this product, because I think if you taste a wine of Mount Etna without any passion, I think it's easy to identify maybe as an Italian wine, but doesn't really differentiate itself unless you have passion for the product. That's a problem for all wines. And so this is definitely a passion location. And for the reasons that he just outlined too, you have to be passionate just to even make the wines on this island. And they those that have been there for a long time are now being rewarded handsomely, because this business the wines of Mount Etna is seriously
Living on the
in a
Vulcano, something.
booming phase. So as I returned with lots of ideas of getting my hands on some of these really amazing wines that we tasted on our trip, and even there in Sicily, would you mind if I bought a bottle? They were like, oh, I'm sorry, they're all gone. I get back to LA. Oh, I want to buy some. Oh, you don't have any. Oh, it's a waiting list. Oh, it's allocated. Oh, it's spoken for the next 5 years. So some of these wines are going to be more difficult to obtain than others. Not all of them, but some. So I will patiently and carefully grow my selections as I continue to learn and continue to make some friends in places such as Etna. Benanti, this is absolutely the way to start, how to start. They started it. This is one of the old OG wineries. They are the leader. They're probably one of the larger producers. They own some of the more significant land holdings. They've had many different iterations of their family and new ideas. And like any good Italian families, some parts of the family don't speak to each other anymore. But they've definitely been able to make a brand out of their name. And if you go to Mount Etna, you'll probably be steered to get a tasting at Benanti because there's so much history and they do it very well. And they have a very friendly winery that allows for visitation, and they make great grapes. And probably their most, I'm going to just say something a little bit out of turn here, but I actually really think, honestly, that the white wines right now from Mount Etna are really, really something special for food pairing, for getting people that like great wine to kind of come on to this volcano. Caricanti is the grape variety, and I really do have a very big, I really think this is a grape variety to watch. I think I don't want to see him plant it in Santa Barbara. That's not what I'm saying. I think Caricanti is a truly pure expression of Mount Etna, and I want to see it become a very important grape variety. Now here, they call it Etna Bianco. It is a Caricanti, but in some vintages, they can use some other grape varieties, and they do make higher end wines from some of their single vineyards. And that is something that they do at Benanti, and it's actually probably their hardest to find wine, or hardest to acquire wine, or their single vineyard uh, versions of their Caricanti. And so here we are at Benanti. You can walk the vineyard, you could see the hillside, you could see the little town. They grow things in this small plots. They have some strange old rules about the use of wood in the vineyard as to kind of shape the vineyard. So they use these wooden posts. The vineyards for the most part are dry farmed. Old vines, many of them have treasured old vines. Some of them are pre-prohibition. And this is the Etna Bianco, coming in at around $29. This is kind of the ambassador wine of the island. There are some wines that are cheaper, but this wine has a good reputation. I believe it's cheaper here in America than it is buying it there. Going to a restaurant, you probably pay about the same price in a restaurant as a retail store here, but that's the way they do it over there. So you get to lots of opportunities to try the wines in Sicily. But a brand like Benanti probably sells as much wine in America, or more wine in America, than they do in Sicily. And as I smelt this wine, I stirred it around. I can smell that energy off of the soils. I can smell what we call the minerality of the place. I can smell that citrus. And of course, Sicily is so famous for their citrus, their lemons, their oranges. And you can all get that citrus peel. I almost get the smell and the taste and the feel of the pith of the fruit, giving me kind of that little bit of bitterness, that little bit of a kind of that burn on the lips, like you just bit into a piece of citrus. I love the acidity in the way it cleanses the palate. These are big white wines. They have the ability to go with all of that seafood, and seafood with capers and seafood with citrus. It's just so perfect. So that's our first wine. That's the way we start. Before we go into wine number 2, just want to break for a moment, say hi to everybody that's joining us tonight. We have some of my favorite peeps here tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. Barbara, it's been a while. Thank you for joining us again. Lisa Test, always great to see you. Kathy and Gary, thank you so much for joining us. David and Maria are on the Zoom, and my friends Mark and Lily are up there in San Francisco. Thank you guys. Lily, I heard some great stuff. That's so exciting. She's Lily, when I met her years ago, she was in the art world. She loved wine. She took our wine class. She continued to love wine. She started taking lots of wine classes. She got all of her credentials. She went into work at a winery, and then she went to work in a wine bar, I think. And now you're in a Michelin star restaurant as the sommelier.
I blame you, Ian. I am obsessed. There is no turning back. It is just a word of warning to everybody. It's super easy to start. Take all of the classes you can of Ian's. You don't know where it's going to take you, but it's going to take you to someplace good.
Well, I mean, there's so many great educators out there, and now you're one of them. And it's great to have the passion that you have. You carry it in, every day with you. So you're an unstoppable force, and I'm so happy for you. So I want to say hi to Alice. It's been a while since I saw you. We went to Portugal with Alice, and you're looking well. Hope everything is great. Wendy, hello. Great to see you always. Wendy went to Sicily with me. David and Maria went to Sicily with me. Gary went to Sicily with me. And who else do we have on the Zoom with us tonight? I think Mark Kordonsky is going to be here eventually. He's in a business dinner. He's going to join us later. He was in Sicily with us. David Casarino, that might be you in the background there. He was in Sicily with us as well. Setsuko's in Japan. She's in the wine business. And Alonzo and Lahoma are in New York. So we got such a fun crowd tonight. It's really great to have you all with us. Well, if I missed you on that Zoom, I will catch up with you in a minute when I come back to see us again. But let's get wine number 2 going. So I get back and I'm looking for wines that we were able to taste in Sicily. And we didn't taste this wine in Sicily on our trip, but we tasted some Gaia in Italy when we were there. And so I get back and I'm looking through it, like, Gaia makes Sicilian? I didn't know that. And it's brought in by Wilson Daniels, which is they're the importers of things like Bianasanti, and they bring in Gaia now. They just got Gaia, and then they bring in Domaine Romanicanti, so that they have some great stuff. And so I said, "Oh, you don't happen to have any Gaia, do you?" And I got the last couple cases. So I think there's a vintage change coming. 21 might be here, but I was able to grab the last couple cases of 2020. these Caricante based wines will love you with time. Do not fear the advancement in a wine like this. You can get even, there's some producers that make some of these wines that actually bring them to market with 5, 6, 10 years of age on them, and they get orange and they get wild. These wines take definitely kind of a cowboy spirit. You got to kind of get on the saddle, hold on for the ride, because they are a big ride, and you got to have them with the right food and at the right moment. And if you don't like octopus because you watched My Octopus Teacher, I don't blame you, but it is the perfect pairing. Let's see. So, the story about the winery, of course, we all know Angelo Gaia Winery. This is based out of Piedmont, but they have expanded their empire. They have great land. They have obviously great resources. They do things at a very high level. They do not invest in areas nonchalantly. They take their time, and when they go in and they go big. And they saw an opportunity to get in early, early being like 7 years ago, and started to acquire some vineyards, beautiful property. I think there's another picture coming up after the slide about the wine here, but again, it's Caricante, and describes this wine as having a little cantaloupe, marzipan, clear citrus notes. Hydrocarbon hints pop up to follow up on the nose. Sure, hydrocarbon hints. That's an interesting description. I didn't write it. This wine is complex with firm texture, minerality, yet vibrant acidity. It opens up on the palate with peach, passion fruit, papaya. The oak is well integrated, which I totally agree with, but there is oak here in a more Gaia way. And every producer kind of has their fingerprint, their personality. Gaia, they know what people love, and they're going to make wines to kind of target that. And they bought some really important vineyard sites to be able to do it. And then they built the Gaia kind of property, and it's very regal, a little cold and frigid on the outside. That's kind of all their properties. But once you get on the inside, they've got every tool in the shed, and they're big, beautiful operations. Swirl that wine around, and you can just smell the salt air. You can get that almost smoky. If I said hydrocarbon, I was going to slap myself for saying that, but I don't even know what that smells like. What is that? Hydrocarbon. Tell me. So anybody have an idea? Here we are in the so we went from $30 from Benanti to kind of the big leagues, and that was by design. Wanted to show kind of the bookends of the business. Almost all the wines in the realm of Etna Bianco kind of live between these bookends, between the very popular Benanti at around $30. And in fact, my price on Benanti is very good. You can search. Wine Searcher is a great tool. Go on it. You'll see we're right at the very top best prices in the marketplace on almost every wine we buy in the store. And I just got to do a little pitch for that. Retail wine is a very, very competitive marketplace. So, it's not just about lowering the price. You got to be able to afford to live and pay your employees and everything. But we do things, we have less expensive rent. We have a warehouse space that's not so beautiful. And we work here on a lot of different things, but keep the hours pretty light. We're not standing in a store 12 hours a day with a large team, accumulating a large payroll that needs to be, kind of dictating our prices. So the wines are, for the most part, every wine in the store should be found in the top 5 spots in Wine Searcher. We're not discounting any wine to a point where the wineries don't like our pricing. And sometimes if that's the case, I can't buy that wine and be competitive on it. So we find there's lots of wines to buy, but we really focus on some really good stuff. I have to love it, and it has to kind of fit our criteria, and things that you just don't find in the grocery store, but things you might find in a Michelin restaurant, things you might discover on a wine trip to a beautiful place, the little producer that doesn't have a lot of distribution, that needs a storyteller. Those are the kind of things I love to find. And this wine will, I'm sure 5 years from now, I will have a hard time getting more than my little allocation. But by me starting to buy it now, build up a little pattern, and they tend to reward you long term with a little bit extra of that wine in years to come. So take a look around. This wine's nowhere under $75. It's $69.95 at my store, and that's working pretty damn hard. Let me get us back into the PowerPoint. I'd love to get your reactions about this wine. What are you guys thinking, feeling, tasting in this particular wine? Talk to me.
I think, Ian, the hydrocarbons is like when you drive into LA on a hot summer day and you kind of smell that car exhaust. That's the smell. That sort of, you know what I mean?
Yes,
It's like the smell of
hydrocarbons.
water.
Yeah, it's like car traffic in it. Yeah, I think that's where they're going on that one.
Yeah. Smell of the volcano in the air.
Yeah, that's right.
Ian, it's Lily. If Caricante had a classic style for Mount Etna, would this be it, or would it be more like the first? I'm not familiar with Caricantes that are oaked like this. This is really interesting to me.
I see. Look at you. You're so wise already, Lily. That's so this is a little bit more of a and I was saying that as we were presenting this, Gaia knows what the consumer wants to see, and there are wines that are approaching Caricante with this. I don't know what you would, what category to put it in, but I think it's kind of the luxury category. I think it's kind of a luxury presentation of Caricante. Some people might say a newer world expression. No, I don't think so. I think it's just a luxury way of presenting the grape variety. And it does have kind of that oak element and as we went through the regions and the different restaurants and we drank the different wines, and we loved a couple of the sommelier that we got to meet on our trip. David, you went to Kiss Day, right? Did you guys love her? Wasn't she amazing?
Oh, I still taste that wine that you had as order. I still that it is the most elegant wine I've had. I don't know.
Paso Pescaro.
Is there any can you get that wine or no?
I'm working on it.
Oh my God, it was just yeah.
It's great restaurants can get it. That's another thing. Some wineries will not allow retailers to buy the wines, and so you will look for channels and avenues to get them, and that's one of those wines that's very allocated and thought of very highly by the press already, and it's quite expensive, but it's coming. I've got my hands out talking to the right people. So but as we were at Kiss Day, with Gary was there, we were eating an amazing seafood feast. And the sommelier brought us a Caricante that was highly decorated, even more decorated with wood than this presentation. But in many of the other efforts, I think the difference is that they kind of call more entry level Etna Bianco, and then they'll have something like they'll call it a contrada, which means kind of like a singular place, or they'll have kind of an elevated level of a luxury level that they'll present with a little bit of wood. And I found many different producers that kind of even play a little bit halfways to this wine. And there's just a lot of, this is kind of one of those places where you start to have to almost know the brands to be able to speak the language of the wines, and and there's quite a few brands to learn, and I'm absolutely a student at this point, but loving the journey, and I'm going everywhere I can to taste and continue to taste. We visited about 20 wineries in the 10 days that we were there, and probably tasted 20 different wines at dinners and stuff like that. And still, I don't think we had any repeats in the efforts, and that's what I find really fun about the trip. Wendy, you liked it. You had this wine at dinner in Sicily. Is that the night I didn't go with you?
Yeah, it was our last night at Mount Etna. We had it. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's the night I tapped out.
Yes.
I had pushed myself to a spot. We were in like day 3 and I was already exhausted, so I tapped out for that night.
You had done a Zoom the night before at like 4 a.m.
That was our Rioja Zoom. I did it live from Sicily, and that was that was a little crazy. Yeah. Cool. So you just got to see kind of the bookends here, but I like both styles of it. And I definitely think you can continue to see this Gaia style progress and further integrate. And a Gaia is going to be one extreme, but and then there's quite a few in the in-betweens that I think you'll all love as you explore Caracanti from Sicily. Now we're going to move into our red grape varieties. And I thank you all for the comments and the great interaction. Yes, I'm looking at some of the comments there. Love it. All right. Let's go back into the PowerPoint. Here we go. Sorry, it's taking me a second. I had to reload it. All right. So Sicily, is known as at least in my wine walk, first wines that I were presented from Sicily back in the 1990s, they were kind of answers for, oh, we ran out of wine in this price point. What do you have that's low cost and affordable and available? And you'd go in, and Sicily would have an answer. They would grow Cabernet, they would grow Pinot Noir, they were growing Chardonnay, and they were competing for wine by the glass, and they made some pretty interesting ripe wines. You're talking about, close to the equator, a lot of warmth, a lot of sunshine, lots of sea air, a lot of breezes keeping disease away. Disease pressures are low. Everything grows on Sicily like crazy. But the quantity needs disappear pretty quickly. The wine industry always corrects, and when there's demand, it gets crushed constantly. And somebody else will come and eat your lunch for you if you're in that volume category. So quality started to become a route, a necessary survival route for a place like Etna. And the window kind of changed. They moved away from the old-fashioned techniques, and they started changing grape varieties, and they centered their eyes and attentions on these grape varieties. and there's been different iterations of Sicily's success. Wines like Marsala, which we also visited, and a lot of the grape varieties that are grown on Sicily were used for Marsala production. And so there's all different types of grape varieties that could be used in Marsala. And even Marsala is trying to make a comeback in today's wine world and to represent itself with new ideas and kind of the classic approach. And we went to some great places and learned about all these different iterations of Sicilian wine. With us focused tonight on Etna, we can keep it simple because we have the white grape variety of Caricante, and now we're going to the red grape variety of a grape called Norello Marscalese. And this is what is going to make the next two wines. And again, we've kind of got bookends, really fantastic Rosso here, Scaravive, and maybe my Italian speaking friends can help me with the pronunciation because I'm sure I just absolutely destroyed that word, but
Sciarivive.
thank you. You chimed in perfectly, David. That voice, you got to work in the voiceover business. We have this small producer on Etna. Again, almost all the producers are super teeny. We're talking about vineyards up to 130 years old. How cool is that? Pretty exciting. And they also had that small fermentation area beneath their home because they all made their own wine at home. And this is the Old Vine winery on the volcano. This wine is imported by Kermit Lynch. He kind of gets his selection, whatever, kind of checks all of his boxes. These guys with 130-year-old vines, that checks a lot of boxes. They do everything naturally, hand harvesting. If you want to talk natural wines being popular, everything on Etna is natural. The people are natural. That's the volcano erupting in the background. They're just going about their business, and they make things. They just allow things to be the way they can be, and it's just really an amazing lifestyle. Here's the spelling of the grape variety, Norello Marscalese. In this particular wine, there are both red and white, so probably it's a field blend, because when you talk about old vineyards, and I'll go back to that slide so you can see it again, but kind of a field blend approach. They probably pick the whole vineyard, and it has a little bit of Caricante and Insolia and in Manella, Recanico, which I've never heard of before, Catarato, Malvasia. These are all grape varieties that you would find in the production of Marsala, and so they're older grape varieties, and they just are a 10% field blend in the nose of this wine. Natural and organic. Oh, another feature of these wines is when we go to make wine, we often decide how much sulfur are we going to use in the production. Is it sulfur as solution to certain things? Are we going to add sulfur to allow the wine to age a long time? A lot of these wines have little to no sulfur in the bottling, and they take the approach of that these wines will change, and they want to not prevent change. They want to allow for the change. They want to allow for the progression, but they also believe that the minerality and the grape variety and their winemaking process protects the wine in a way that's great for 10, 15, 20 years. but you do have to appreciate when wines age without protection, they will get a little gnarly. You do start to pick up different type of aromatics that, you know, some people will be offended by. It can get a little rough in the age department, and they get wild, and they get it just have to kind of be able to have an open mind to that kind of living with that potential flaw, if you will, which some people don't consider a flaw because it's just a natural progression that's not being prevented. So this is our first red. I would love to get some feedback from you as you look at the vineyards. The gentleman who works this land, he works at Passo Pescaro, and it is this is his own project. So he had the ability to work for some masters, and he has his own, which is still a pretty small project. And that's his house. An essential rainbow again appearing. And here we are at 32.95. I didn't want to dump out my white, so now I'm going to get into this. Taste it. Alcohol here is at 14.2. Tell me some of the things you're smelling in the nose of this wine, because this can be a little wild. It has the first thing I smelled was like iodine. Just kind of hit me, a little iodine. All of that volcanic material, of course, you're going to get that ashy, edgy, the ash type of smell. The fruits aren't as obvious. They're not popping out of the glass as a fruity wine. But when you can get down into them, you can maybe start to think about things like raspberries, currants. Get like orange zest, orange peel. I get a lot of different herbs, bay leaf kind of popping out. In the mouth, it's almost crunchy. It has kind of a fruit skin kind of crunch to it, like a cherry skin. Has a wonderful velvety mouthfeel, but there's some crunchy tannins there. What do you think, Lily? Is this in your bag?
Right. My notes were red plums and scorched earth.
Good.
Yeah. It's almost like crumbly soil. There's lots of texture in your mouth. It's like, yeah, it's like, it feels like you took a scoop of the earth and you put it in your mouth. Very drying and it's savory.
And I gotta say, you know, when you begin your wine journey, wines like this are not probably what you're going to be used to tasting. It might not even make you happy. If you drink a lot of wine, you start to get to a point where less is more, and you start to put wines in your mouth to taste things, feel things. You can really start to taste things, a broader range of things, because you have now so much information, and you can kind of fall in love with strange things that you never really thought you'd look for in wine. And that I I can almost hear myself saying, this wine's a food wine. Well, all wines are probably destined to be had with food, but some wines are kind of cocktaily and kind of reward you just to sit around and sip them on their own. I don't think this is one of them, unless you drink a lot of wine and then you get pleasure out of drinking wines like this, where it has kind of that pebbly, like you said, that's those small little rocks. You can almost feel the volcanic rock in your mouth, and that kind of becomes like, hey, that's pleasurable now, because we've broken through into this realm of really finding that less is more spot, and enjoying high acid wines instead of low acid wines. But it's not necessarily the destination everybody needs to get to, and you don't have to aspire to get to that. But if you follow wine super hardcore, I think you kind of end up there whether you want to or not.
I noticed, Ian, about Sicily, and those, it's good to see everybody who was there. What I really learned was wine's a place. So I drink wines from all over the world, and you kind of know where they're from, and they all have a sort of similar thing. But Sicily is a completely on its own, and they really are wines of place. You can really, like Etna is specific, and it's really wonderful to drink these because it takes you right back. It takes you there.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes when you're tasting a wine of place, maybe it tastes better to me because I was there. I don't know if I could enjoy these wines as much without having been there. It's just kind of one of those things where you attach memories to the place, and you attach kind of that, there's a romance to it, but it's also kind of just like things start to make sense. The dots connect, the lines connect, and you can trace it back to the smell of the place and the feel of that place, the energy, the vibration, and all that stuff. I also think I say that out loud just kind of justify continuing to travel like a demon. I'm traveling a lot. I'm loving that. We're building a super trip to Argentina, and a super trip to Spain at the end of this year. If you would like to learn more, just click on Learn About Wine and look at the calendar, and you'll see a place where you can join our interest list so we can invite you. We have every intention to announce our Argentina intentions next week to that list. And then after the list hears about it, then we put it on the website and see if there's any additional inventory remaining. But we take about 10, 12 people with us on these trips. And they're a lot of fun, and a lot of people on the Zoom tonight have come with us, and it's the pleasure of the work that we're in to be able to meet some of these great personalities and to see some of these beautiful things in action. So with that, Alice, it gets better with each sip. I think that's the way the Portuguese wines were as well when we were in Portugal and tasting wines outside of Lisbon.
I would agree with that. I'm sorry I missed the Sicily trip.
I can safely say we'll be doing it again.
Good.
There's so much to see, so much we didn't see. We don't necessarily, even though we go back to the same place, we're not repeating the same trip. You can't take it all in, and you wouldn't want to try. Sometimes the luxury of moving slow is really what makes the trip kind of fun and not being in a hurry. And I think that's what's great about wine is it kind of rewards that patience, those patience too. This wine was from vintage 2020. Vintage in Sicily probably dictates quantity as much as more than even quality, because quality can be very high even in low quantity vintages. It's part of just the handwork and the low yield environment that they're in. So but they've had a pretty good run of vintages, and I would just say trust the producer and the retailer that's recommending the wine to you, because they've probably tasted it. And there's a lot of data now, a lot of data points, and a lot of press that have made Sicily part of their tour, part of their tasting. So, the big publications are absolutely reviewing a lot of the wines now. Moving into our fourth wine. Barbara, how are the wines treating you?
Very well.
Cool. You cut out quickly. Lost you.
Very well. I'm enjoying this because they're quite different than things I've tried before. So it's a good introduction to something new.
Fantastic. Mark Kordonsky, you joined us. Thank you very much. Good to see your face, sir.
You're very welcome. I'm in a restaurant and it's very noisy here, so I'm gonna stay muted, but nice to see you all, and it was a great trip.
Thanks, Mark. Well, Mark and I and Dave and I and Gary and I have now, and Wendy and I have all traveled into different places, Alice as well. We're going to move into our last wine, the Etna Rosso 2017 from Il Custodi. We met the winemaker earlier on the video. We're going to open up the slideshow. This is some really noble wine here. Etnus. David, do you have a pronunciation? Etnus.
It's just Etna's, isn't that just what? That's just the old way. I don't know. But it sounds pretty good to me. Yeah.
Good. Il Custodi, considered to be the protector and the guardian of the vineyards, the foothills of Mount Etna. 2,000 years ago is when they started planting the vineyards here. And also, speaking highly about the rest of Sicily as a visit, you can visit so many beautiful architectural wonders, things that are still, there's some of them are in ruins, some of them have been restored, but just amazing architectural finds. Some of them built before they built Athens. The Greeks made home in Sicily, so they brought that sense of grandeur and shock and awe to the island, and it's present in many parts and many corners of Sicily. This is property 1435 in Catania. harvest is carried out manually. Here's the vineyard. Mostly bush vines, no trellising, typically. I saw a couple different efforts to kind of touch modern grape growing, but this vineyard looks ancient. Nerello Marscalese, oftentimes when you taste these wines, has a little I met some producers that don't blend anything into their Nerello Marscalese, and I met some producers that like a little bit of Nerello Cappuccio. It is just another species of dark grape, and it's kind of a nice complement to add some complexity, some weight, some color, but some like it and some like it in small quantities. You don't see many wines made from pure Nerello Cappuccio, but you do see a lot of the wines made from 100% Nerello Marscalese. Nerello Marscalese is the red and Caricante is the white of Mount Etna. There's always a view at the top of the volcano. These are built on the side. The vineyards are on the side of the volcano. They typically between 2,000 and 4,000 feet in elevation. And in this particular property, some old, large, upright wood tanks, footer, and then you can see the vineyards here, some of the plateaus that they're also planted. And a lot of these are kind of in separate little pockets, and picked at separate times, maybe because they have their different exposures, like little facets. This wine weighs in around $51, 2017. Let's take a look. More money, more power, deeper, richer, more complexity. Probably follows the rules of wine. The more you pay for wine, sometimes the longer you need to wait to drink it. This wine definitely will reward some patience. It is a big boy. So elegant, I hear. Excellent. What do you guys, give me some comments, guys. I'm sick of hearing my voice. I'd love to hear yours. And in the Zoom environment, you sit here, and sometimes when you're in a live classroom, you say something, you can hear people go, "Oh yeah," but not here. So give it to me. What are you guys thinking?
I love this last wine. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
dark and elegant. The color is so dark. It's amazing. And the earthiness.
Mhm. Yeah, my first sip, the impression I had was, is this an Amarone? I got the fresh and the dried fruit, primary black cherries, fresh and dry. And I really love that. I really love that. Like, you can just start to taste and feel the age on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of complexities, just layers and layers of complexity to unwrap.
The wine that David K was mentioning earlier, which we had a little in common with this one. I hope you agree, David, that there was just this kind of lavish, like you mentioned, very ripe features. Is certainly not afraid of showing off the exposure to the sun in these wines. You get almost a scorched, sunburnt, sun-drenched depth to the wines, and that kind of creates this like relaxed mouthfeel, this like pleasurable pool of texture and the soft edges, kind of in the lighter, leaner, less expensive, younger version has some kind of hard edges to it, a little bit of that gravelly stuff. And here it just kind of all falls into this rounder kind of plush, hyper, focused. And I'm sure they went through and did a high selection of the berries to be able to achieve this. And that's why you pay more for wine and drink it in the special moments, because there's something special here.
It's that wine at Kiste that like this one, it was even a lighter but more powerful. I don't know. It reminded me of a really great Barolo. That's the only sort of but it wasn't a Barolo. You know what I mean? It was one of the most elegant red wines I'd had from Etna there. I don't know what it was. I hope you can get it because
I'll show you a picture to remind everybody what that was.
Yeah.
But anyone else want to mention any thoughts on this particular effort?
I want to taste. I want to taste it in 5 years, maybe in 10.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it very much now, but I can see that it's just going to get richer.
Yeah, Ian, as I said throughout the trip, Novello Mascalese to me was like Nebbiolo. It was, I mean, to add to what David said, I mean, I'm a lover of Barolo, as you know, and this is a Barolo at a fraction of the price.
That's a good point too. And I think, we're talking about these wines in a state, in a moment where they're evolving and they're finding their price point. I think it's safe to say that eventually these wines probably find higher price points pretty easily, because at this price point, to have something with this kind of character and to be able to go to a great restaurant, and pay less than $200 for one of the great wines of any place in the world there's not many examples like that anymore. So it does represent a value at some level. And David, the wine that we're talking about is this one here. Yeah. And this is from Pasio Pescaro, and that's the name of the producer. He makes a number of different contrada, different vineyard selections. This is the R. I think it means the reserve, but it might mean something else. This wine has a retail already around $100, and potentially this wine could be a $500 wine someday. I'm not saying it's worth it. I'm just saying that when demand gets involved and you can't find something and they only make a little bit of it, it can go kind of crazy. And so I'm out looking to acquire some of these wines and to be able to get in line for future allocations, but so is everybody else. So if you're going to open a bottle of this wine anytime soon, you make sure you invite me over. That's all I'm saying.
How many regions of Sicily did you visit?
Wow. We covered some ground, Alice. Etna was a couple of days, and then we traversed pretty much the entire island, including staying in a beautiful estate in the center of Sicily. Can someone help me out with who that was that we visited. I'm trying to remember right now.
Della Mitra.
It was Regalali.
Yeah, Regaliali.
Regaliali, yeah.
Yeah, and the property was like 800 hectares, and we got the whole property to ourselves. It was really nice, and they had the chefs there and everything, and that was cool. And then we went to Planeta in another corner and hung out with the Planeta family, and we went to Donna Fugata and we hung out with the Donna Fugata people, and we I had to get back to LA for a big event on Saturday the 29th, so I missed one of the coolest parts of the whole trip, right, David?
Forgot about it.
Yeah, we missed you, man. That was... Gotta go back, period.
Yeah, we went to these guys got to go to Occupanti and hang out, and they also went to Caz, and they hung out with Ariana Occupanti, and
she wasn't there. It was her sister. Occhipinti. Yeah.
Occhipinti.
Painted eyes, Occhipinti.
Very cool. Well, I thank you guys for joining me tonight as we talked about the wines about Etna. I hope you guys enjoyed them, and I'll continue to be out there acquiring the right wines for the website. You all have a special code if you liked any of the wines that we showed you tonight. I don't have much of any of these wines, but there's enough that if you want to go in and get some, they're there. But we do have still $10 delivery anywhere in California, free delivery in Los Angeles, and there's an asterisk next to both those comments because you do have to order over $100 worth of wine to get the free or the $10 delivery. But a couple bottles of these wines will get you there, and we do ship outside of the state of California, of course, but we pass on whatever that cost is, and we don't make a penny on the shipping. But those big companies, they're on the stock exchange, and they make plenty of money. But we have so many fun Zooms coming down the pipeline. I hope to see you all very, very soon. And I hope you guys will consider joining me next week when we have just an incredible lineup of phenomenal stars of Zinfandel on our Zoom land. In fact, we partner with my other website called Learn About Wine, because the merchant of wine is owned by my family. I work for the merchant, but I run my Learn About Wine site. And at Learn About Wine, we produce some of the bigger efforts for the business here. And here's our Zinfandel lineup. I have the winemakers all appearing from Hartford Court, Ridge, Rock, that's Clay Moritz, and the actual winemaker, Emma, who's my dear friend and helps me make Beekeeper, is going to be presenting Moritz and Rockpile Jack's Cabin. We have legendary Joel Peterson on the Zoom live with us next week from Once and Future. He was the founder of Ravenswood, sold Ravenswood. His son owns Bedrock, and Joel will be on the Zoom with us. The winemaker from Limerick Lane, showing a block selection from 1910. And then I'll be showing my family's Beekeepers Zinfandel in the lineup. So it'll be a real fun lineup of personalities and great wines. And if you want to see all the other Zooms at Zoom Into Wine, and I just got to plug this one too, because this guy is legend, Adam Tolmack. He is the owner and winemaker at Ojai, and he is going to give us an hour live on Zoom talking about 3 of his great single vineyard wines. He is the name behind a lot of these vineyards. He was a partner at Aubin Clement and has incredible story about his past, his present, his future, and he just makes beautiful wines, and they all got huge scores, and they sell out like lightning fast. So I'm hoping to sell this one out, and you can join us. The tasting kit's $19. So I hope you guys will consider joining Adam and I on that Zoom. It'll be fantastic to have a big audience talking to Adam Tolmack. Really fun white wines of the world. Check out the lineup. Really impressive white wine lineup. They kind of give you a lot of ammunition to be able to talk about grape varieties and different areas. One of the coolest Muscadet producers, one of the coolest German Riesling, one of the coolest Albariños from Ria Spacious in Spain. Oh, look at that. Another great Blanc, Etna Blanco, will be appearing in my white wine tasting. Magiri is the name of the producer, and I love it. I think it's great. Weinbach from Alsace and Ken Forrester, FMC. That is a four-letter word in there. FMC Shannon. This is old vine stuff from South Africa, and has to be tasted to be appreciated. Our Rhone Gala next month. Our extreme vineyards of Argentina. We're going to taste wine from 12,000 feet in elevation, one of the highest vineyards in the world. Greek tasting with Thermopolis, and I actually have Mr. Thermopolis on the Zoom with us from Greece. And this guy is a legendary producer. We'll have all the information on there very soon. The wines are in-house, and the Zoom will be on sale very, very, very shortly. I saw a lot of Greek wine here, and I'm really digging it. I think the wines are really good and delicious, and we're definitely heading back to Greece in 2024. So thank you all. Have a great night, and hopefully my Dodgers get out of this skid, because it has been nasty to be a Dodger fan for the last couple of days. Mark and Lily, you aren't Giants fans now that you live in the Bay Area.
No, go Dodgers.
No.
Yeah.
We had a little trouble between the Warriors and the Lakers, but otherwise we're good.
Yeah.
Blue all.
We're definitely in trouble every time we go into a bar. Me being from Boston, you know.
Me too.
Sure, I get it. Jess, Art, thank you guys for joining us tonight. It was wonderful to see you. Hope you guys are doing well. Gary, I hope you're well, man. Great to have you. Hope your wife is doing all right. Say hi to Kathy. And Alonzo and Lahoma, thank you for joining us in New York. I know it's late there.
Yes, had a wonderful time, Ian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Always great to have you on the Zoom.
Great seeing you.
Thanks. Wendy, we'll talk to you soon. David, thank you so much. Lisa, Tess, David, and Maria. Ciao.
Wow.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Alice.
Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Bye, Ian. Thanks.
Bye.